Welcome. We are live. It's another beautiful Wednesday in July here in Alberta. Chris, my partner, going live from Ponoka, Alberta. Myself, MacKenzie Wilson, going live from Calgary, Alberta. Chris, how's your night going?
It's going great. It's my second webinar tonight, so I'm really cutting things close. Back to back. That's right.
So. Cool. What's been on your plate? You've been up to anything lately?
I have, well, we just winding up this one place here in Ponoka where we helped a lady get someone out their property. We are now in, my partners were in cleaning out the house, and oh my God, what a ordeal that has been. Literally, we have dumpsters lined up on the front lawn filling it up, and it's just a real difficult situation. The poor lady, she lives in British Columbia, and you know, we give her a play-by-play of everything we're doing so that she's fully up to date and not struggling, wondering who we are. And so we're sending her pictures and making sure that she's aware. And you know, and I think that just goes without saying. Let's say you, like in your case, you have someone doing some work in a bathroom, and all of a sudden you're finding some bills that you weren't expecting. And I think you posted about that earlier today. And so I'm, you know, just my due diligence. If I am doing something for somebody, I make sure that she's fully aware what each step is costing her, what it is. So, but she's in good shape. She's in good shape.
Okay. We got the last 10 seconds of that. The Facebook feed failed. We're now live with Facebook as well as YouTube. So I'm going to do a second quick welcome. Welcome. It's Wednesday. It's Alberta Shop Talk, the only show dedicated to Alberta landlords. Chris is to my right. I'm to your left. I'm MacKenzie. We're quite happy to have you here. It's going to be another fun show. We've got two awesome guests lined up. They're well known in the investment community here in Calgary. They are also good friends of mine. They're Bruce and Trish Fraser. They are a power couple. They do renovations and flips. They do legalized suites. And of course, they do buy and hold, and they do landlording like the rest of us. So it'll be a really good conversation tonight. Bruce is going to talk a little bit about soundproofing, some tips around that, how to do it. I'm kind of curious because I believe I've soundproofed a couple of my suites, so I'm going to see if what I've done is good. And Trish is really good at tenant screening as well. She kind of runs the property management side for them, and she's got the whole conversation figured out. So we'll bounce some ideas off her, see what really works well for her, and we'll learn a few things as we work together. And then we'll go into, of course, your guys' questions from the last week. All of us will take a stab at and help you out. And is that a train going in your background there, Chris?
I'll just shut them off. There we go. That'll help.
There you go. Perfect. Awesome. And Chris, I'm going to ask you a second time. How's your night going?
Good. We're doing good. Playing some catch up here. I'm just trying to see if we're going to pop up on Facebook, but I haven't seen it pop up yet. So
it will be on there. It will be on there now. I do see it went live. For some reason, it kind of breaks. So let's get Trish and Bruce on. They're politely waiting in the background, and we'll start a bit of a conversation here and start helping some folks out. Okay. So this is Trish and Bruce. Thank you guys for joining the show. What we'll do is maybe each of you guys kind of give us a rundown of your guys' background and how you got into real estate or just really anything, so we can kind of give the group a bit of an idea of who each of you guys are. So Bruce, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. I was going to defer to my wife, but okay. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll do a very condensed version of the story. A little over 5 years ago, Trish and I started looking at our retirement planning and crunching our numbers. We were kind of investing the traditional way through our mutual funds and whatnot, RSPs. I was in a fairly strong salary position with a major engineering firm, but we realized that the returns we were getting just weren't going to cut it. We had some strong amount of equity in our own home. Our mortgage was basically paid off at that point, and we were looking for ways to make that work for us. Attended actually a Keyspire event, and that kind of got us going. Got introduced to some investment vehicles there, and also encouraged to get into buy and hold real estate. In Calgary, we wanted to stay close to home, so we thought one of the best ways to do that was to create secondary suites in existing structures. And over the next couple of years, we converted 3 single-family homes and converted their basements into legalized, city-registered secondary suites, and have been churning away on those. And then in parallel, do a lot of passive investing as well. I also do design services for other developers and converting suites, and I do drafting services. I'm a piping designer, so I do drafting and city submissions, all that kind of stuff for secondary suites in town. And that's kind of a side industry, and bounce back and back and forth out of engineering when the work's there. So that's kind of where we're at. I
love it. Awesome. Trish, we got you on mute there. We'll get you on there. I'll say you guys are a partner in crime. You guys are married. So what's your take on your side of the business when you got into real estate?
I just started by, sorry, a little nervous.
No
I do all the tenant screening. I put the people in, and I just manage the property that way, but Bruce is my handyman. I'm always trying to get him to allow us to hire people, but he likes to do it himself. So
fair enough. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. So
I learn and I get to buy tools. So.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Yeah, that might be a question tonight. I actually put in the sequence as one of mine. So, and Chris, do you swing the tool as well, or?
Oh, you bet. That's one way I've found to really cut down my costs is learning, and my rewards are my new tools. So if I can save the money on, you like that, eh, Bruce?
Yeah.
If I can save the money on the labor and I get to buy a nice fancy tool, that's how I've grown my tools, by justifying that. So.
Okay. Perfect.
Works for me too.
Yeah. I'm okay at swinging the hammer, but it typically costs me more time than probably what it's worth. But that's to be fair. Okay, cool. So we got you guys. You're both active in real estate. You're married, which I think is cool. I love the tag team. I love how you guys work together and share the responsibilities. Super cool. And I mean, it's nice having that commitment as well, because it makes, real estate the ideal situation is a very boring buy and hold things where nothing really happens. But being a do-it-yourself landlord, we're all constantly dealing with challenges. So tackling as a couple, I think that makes a good strength for you guys, and you guys can do it together. So we're going to talk about a little bit of what you guys are good at. Bruce being the engineer and the drafting and swinging the hammer. You guys have done, you said 3+ suites now. You wanted to talk about some soundproofing. So maybe give me a run through of the best ways to soundproof a suite, especially if it's pre-existing and you're going in after the fact as opposed to new build or new construction. And I'll ask you questions along the way.
Okay. So most of the soundproofing I have done, and if you want to do it right, you need to be down to the studs to really let it happen. You can do some work in existing structures, but if you're putting in a basement suite, for example, or have an existing basement suite and you want to soundproof between the floors, a couple things you can do. Upstairs with flooring, if you happen to be converting that floor, tearing out old floor and putting in some vinyl plank or something like that, you can put a cork layer underneath that, and that'll help dampen a little bit. But the thing about sound is it transmits through structure. So and houses are structured, they're connected and whatnot, and that provides pathways for sounds and vibrations, basically, which generate sound, right? To transmit from one part of the house to the other. Every footfall, every step, every barking dog, whatever, in both directions. The thing that stops sound from transmitting primarily is mass. And mass that is decoupled from the structure. So there's several engineering principles involved, and boy, you can get really scientific and spend a lot of money really dampening down a room, or you can do it, fairly on the cheap yourself, but you just really, really need to be careful. There's some certain principles involved that have to be followed. And in my experience, if you are soundproofing a basement or something yourself and you're hiring contractors to do it, you've got to be there every day making sure they do it right.
Yeah, because once a piece of drywall goes up, for example, you don't know what's done behind the scenes, which, like you said, down to the studs. You want to decouple so that sound does not go from one solid piece to the next solid piece. There has to be some break in the middle.
Right.
If they already thrown the drywall up, you don't know what's been done. So
yeah, so if you're gonna try to float some resilient channel and genie clips and and do all that kind of stuff, you've got to make sure that nothing's short circuited against the other walls or the ceiling, and no screws are going through, and you've got vinyl blankets on your electrical fixtures and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Then basically it depends on how much money you want to spend to get the extra levels of dampening. You want to go green glue?
I use RC channel, so I'm glad you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Explain what RC channel is.
So resilient channel, or it's called Z-bar. It's this little 2.5 inch wide strips, 12-foot long aluminum channel, and they're just they're kind of this sort of profile. Oops, up there we go, down that way, and you screw the one upper part of the channel to the studs, going crossways, perpendicular to the joists, and you screw the drywall onto the lower part of the channel, and the whole thing kind of floats there and hangs there. The idea is that you don't want to screw your drywall straight into the stud.
So something like this? Is this
there you go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey, look at that. Woohoo. Yeah.
So one side, like where I'm moving my mouse here, goes
that gets
into the
screwed
stud.
into the stud. That's right.
Perfect.
And then the drywall screws get
put into the platform
that.
here.
Yeah. And then that actually decouples it from the structure.
Awesome.
So the other thing you got to watch out for when you're we'll just say we're drywalling a ceiling and soundproofing a ceiling. First of all, I pack it with about 6 inches full of safe and sound just for fun. It's dirty, it's cheap. I actually use also a product called Line Acoustic in the air returns, and just with some spray adhesive, you can cut it. It's fairly stiff. Then it's got a scrim layer on one side, and it just helps control some of the sound, all your fresh air returns from your upstairs to your, because HVAC's a killer, right? You're going to transmit all the way through.
Yeah, I don't have anything on that. So sorry, that's something that goes inside the HVAC.
Yeah, you just cut it to shape, put it up, into the studs and against your little, plastic cover as you're creating that return along the studs, right? And you just make a little box and just use some spray 90 or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
On top of the little platform that you're building, and that helps just absorb a little bit of the vibrations. Every little bit helps down there. So you're really going to watch your air returns.
What's your thoughts of putting something in the empty joist space? And
that's where you pack it in with safe and sound insulation, right? The mineral.
Oh, okay. I caught that part. Okay, gotcha.
With 2 layers of it, and keep it fairly loose. It'll help dampen out some of the high end stuff. But cool. if you want to do a decent job, use 5/8 drywall, and use 2 layers of it. And when you bring your drywall over to the corners, leave a 1/4 inch gap, or maybe a eighth gap.
Yeah.
3/16 actually is ideal. And run a bead of acoustical sealant around it. Green glue makes an acoustical sealant. And that'll keep the drywall floating. And then when you put your second layer on, do a gap there as well. So ideally, you want to come up and do your ceiling, and then you want to do your wall, and you want to leave a gap, right? And run acoustical sealant along there. Then you want to do your second layer of ceiling and leave another gap between the two, right? And do another layer of acoustical sealant right in there. So you get this kind of zigzag kind of effect. And
is there air pockets too in there that helps kind of?
What it does is it just suspends the ceiling, right? And so when sound hits that mass, now you've got 2 times 5/8 mass, it's floating, and it'll actually vibrate microscopically and turn the sound into mechanical and heat energy, and that's what's going to stop the sound. Sound is energy, right? It's sound waves, it's energy, and it's going to hit that mass, and if it's allowed to move and vibrate, it'll actually vibrate and dissipate that sound into mechanical energy. But if you jam it up against the wall, or you jam it up against a stud, and it's not allowed to float there, then you're short circuiting that energy directly into the structure, and that's the key. That's what needs the supervision with your contractors, because they'll tell you that, oh yeah, we do this all the time. You know, I've yet to find a drywaller who will take the care to do it properly. And if you short circuit the system, you may as well not spend the money.
Yeah, because you're in the same place as you started with. That's cool. So
it needs a lot of supervision.
I've done 2 of the things you suggested, so I'm probably halfway there. I did double drywall. I can't recall if it was 1/2 or 5/8. I did double drywall. We did RC channel. I don't know if we did the soundproof caulking along the sides, but I could tell you just from personal experience, before and after, it was definitely already a noticeable difference. And I think if you follow the tips that you just mentioned, Bruce, that would probably even make it exaggerate and make it that much better.
Yeah, so. And you can also do additional steps by using, for example, green glue between the panels, between your 2 layers of drywall. That's about $1 a square foot in additional cost. And you just sploosh it on. It comes in the big tube, and it's like a 1/2 tube per sheet. And again, that actually starts converting that energy to heat. And it never dries. Ever. It stays flexible and pliable for 40 years, and it actually converts that sound energy to heat and dissipates it as heat. So it's another thing you can go. So there's lots of different steps you can take, and you just start adding money.
Also, you said back to, so if you're going to give a quick summary of what's called the best bang for your buck solutions, what would you suggest, Bruce?
Take it down to the studs, pack the ceiling with 6 inches of safe and sound mineral wool, do some acoustical lining, get that line acoustic product, and make sure your cold air returns are covered so you're not creating little resonant spaces in there. Then put in your resilient channel perpendicular to the studs, make sure you're not short circuited anywhere. Get that first layer of drywall up. Leave a gap, then do your wall, run acoustical sealant bead all the way around, and then come down and do your second layer, again leaving a gap and sealing it with acoustical seal. And then you can option green glue if you want to spend the extra money. I did use it on my last project, and whether it made a difference or not, I don't know. It's pretty quiet down there.
And he's a drummer. Bruce is a drummer, and he's not a nice little, he's a drummer. And he can be drumming downstairs for me, and I can be like just 1 floor down, and I can be on the phone and hear everything.
Oh, in your current house, or
in a current house. We put a studio in our basement down here. We did in our previous house as well in Westgate,
which is right under my kitchen.
Yeah, I'm basically right underneath.
You do get the sound, or you don't get the sound, Trish?
Very little.
I can hear that he's drumming, but you've never heard Bruce drum.
It's muffled.
So all things considered, it'd be like blasting a movie with surround sound and deep bass, and similar to Bruce going hard on the drums, and you can have a conversation in your kitchen directly above without issue. Wow, that's impressive. So that's very cool. Like I said, we did double drywall, and we did RC channel off the studs. It was my grandpa-in-law in Red Deer. I think he just turned 70 or 71. He's 70. Sorry,
wow.
He's 70. Oh yeah, he's the pinnacle of old man strength. I've thoroughly impressed. We were carrying 14-foot-long sheets of drywall into the basement window, and I am sweating trying to keep up to him carrying it, and he's got smoke in one hand, he's one hand bombing the other side, and then just
crazy.
Different breed.
One tip: get coarse drywall screws for your second layer, because you're going to go sheet to sheet. And make sure you know where your center lines are and your studs are. So chalk that first layer of drywall, at least on the edges, so you know where to stay away from. Because if you drive a screw now through and you hit the stud, then you're shorting the system again.
Yeah.
So you just want to go sheet to sheet and off the original screw line. And in fact, you could go counter to it. But make sure you're just chalking your studs before you get that first layer up. Chalk those studs and around your perimeter where your joists are and then where your channels are.
Cool.
And use a coarse drywall screw for that second layer. Because that'll grip sheet to sheet. If you use a fine screw, it'll just pull out, and I have a hard time getting that layer up there, especially with the 5/8.
Okay, I love it. Hey, and we already got our first question off the chat here, so I'm gonna pop it up for you guys. I think it's a pretty simple one. So since you guys are doing your own renos and you're buying your tools, are the tools tax deductible?
Well, we're corporate, so we have a corporate structure. Our properties are owned by a corporation, which is owned by a holding company, and our management company is off to the side. So our corporation purchases the tools, and it's all part of the cost.
Chris.
So technically, I don't own the tools.
Oh, but they're in your garage.
Yes, I store them on behalf of the corporation.
So man. They would be an asset for your corporation then.
Yeah, they'll depreciate over time,
and you depreciate them. So for someone to have just a mom and pop's operation similar to what I have, those tools are not something you can write off against your personal income. You'll agree with that?
I have to talk to my accountant, because if you're declaring income from and expenses on your properties, it's possible, if you needed a tool to do that's possible that you'd be able to claim that as a legitimate expense.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
That's where I think I'll talk to my
for sure, talk to your
bookkeepers and get the right answers, because I can't answer this one here. We'll do what we can for everybody on the page, but at the end of the day, you got to go to the person that you're paying to look after yourself.
Go to your accountant for sure.
Yeah,
I will say for what's qualified tools, like small things like, I can't even think of a good example right now, but under $100 or just one-off stuff, I've gone through and expensed that, and I've needed the tool to complete the job, so I've picked it up. There's probably a line somewhere if we're talking like a Milwaukee set of power tools that's $600 or $700 and on a $1,000 renovation. That probably won't fly.
Exactly.
But I've been doing it now 3 years, and I've been using both a bookkeeper and an accountant, and I've written off certainly $30, $40, $50 tools on, if you're putting $800 worth of products and you spend $200 on tools to do that, and you don't have them, I'd have no reason writing those off. Of course, caveat, confirm with your bookkeeper and accountant, probably your accountant in this case. Your bookkeeper, though, if she is knowledgeable, would know this as well, or he or she. So, anyways, perfect. I don't know, Chris, do you got anything to add on, or on the soundproofing side? No, okay, good. Efficient. Do we want to talk a little bit about tenant screening? Trish, I know that you kind of focus on that. Maybe tell me a little bit about your process. You've got your ad, you're receiving the phone calls. Where do you start your tenant screening at?
Can I just say, everything I've learned about tenant screening, I've learned the hard way.
Okay.
And how do I start? I always list my places on RentFaster. Our homes that we rent out are all in MacKenzie town. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be the best way in Calgary to do things, because in Calgary, you need to know what neighborhood you want to be in. I have tried Kijiji, and I've never gotten anybody good from Kijiji that has passed through my scrutiny. I always use RentFaster, and I put a lot of effort into my ads. I write a lot of copy, and I try to put the person into the house. That being said, though, these days people don't read the ads, which is fair.
It's hit or miss, right? Yeah, I think if
Yeah.
you get a tenant that takes the time to read your ad, and it sounds like to me, Trish, if you put that effort into your copy, you probably have a bit of filtering done right your ad, right? You might say, I require background and credit checks. This is this type of property. It's pet friendly, not pet friendly.
Yeah.
All that kind of key stuff, right? Yeah, awesome.
And no partying. That's in my ad.
Perfect. Yeah, like say it as it is, and
Yeah.
it does help because I mean that might be one or two less phone calls you have to deal with when it's not even a fit.
Well, all of our places are suited homes, right? So they have to deal with the people upstairs, and I let this slip once. You know, it's always those things that you just let slip this one time that come back and bite you.
Yeah.
And I tried to make sure that the people upstairs would get along with the people downstairs. And one of the things that I do to keep the peace between the upper and lower suites is I have all the utilities come to me. I have a formula that I lay out for the cost of the utilities and, you know, summer and winter fees and stuff. So they pay me a straight amount every month, and I manage the utilities. And if they pay too much, I rebate the money back to them. If they're not paying enough, I come back to them and say, you owe me this.
Yeah, perfect. I actually do something very similar as well. I'm very similar to you guys. I have a whole suite of properties with 1 meter, so therefore I've got 2 units off the same bill. So I keep it in my name as well, because then one, it gets paid,
Yes.
and then number two is I make that as a pitch as well. Say, hey, I'll keep it in my name, then you don't have to worry about the bills. I'll give you a flat rate, so your budgets are easier to manage. And I find actually all my tenants really like that. I've had maybe I've had a few people question me on that, but I just said basically at the end of the day, your utilities are separate from your lease. I do a utilities agreement, and this is the X amount. If there's a discrepancy or if the utility bill spikes for whatever reason 1 month, I give you guys a 30-day notice and we'll make adjustment accordingly. I've said that every time, and people just generally understand. Plus, I think too is if they know that they don't, you know, take care of their usage, that they can pay more. They're actually motivated to pay it down, even though it's in a shared situation.
Yeah, and you can also tell if they move somebody else in.
Oh, because they go up.
Because the bill goes up. If you know what it is over time, you know.
Wow, that is detailed.
You get a spike in water usage.
Yeah.
Right, the extra
it's
showering.
Always the water.
Oh, okay. And have you? Is this from experience? You figured out one time someone moved in, or how did you do this?
Not well. There, yeah. One place I saw that there was somebody living there that wasn't on the lease, and so I phoned the girls and I said, "Come on, somebody else is living here. They need to be on the lease. We'll just, you know." And you know, my leases are written so that one of the people had put on a response on him. My answer was so long I didn't bother typing it out. But they had a couple, and one of them moved out, and the other one stayed. And the one that moved out said that she wasn't going to pay her half anymore. Well, my leases, you can't get away with that. Each person is responsible for 100% of the rent. So if there's one person living there, they're responsible for the entire rent. And they both have their name on it. They're both responsible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I totally agree. I mean, and I've seen this question a few times, or actually a number of times on the group, where people say, well, I've got a couple applying, or maybe I've got 2 friends, or a mom and a daughter, or a father and a son, whatever it might be, and only one person wants to go on the lease. If they're over the age of 18, everyone's on the lease, because one, they're all responsible, like you put, Trish, and then secondly too is you've got not one bank account but 2 bank accounts to go after should the worst case scenario happen. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing that I took the time to do, and it took me quite a while, is I grabbed leases from a bunch of different sources, and I think I had 5 of them, and I sat down and I made my lease from all of those.
Good for you.
So I've got things in there that most people wouldn't think about. And my lease it's 8 pages long.
Oh, it's a little detailed then.
It's a little detailed, yeah.
So what's your favorite? I'm going to ask you now. What's your favorite section or rule, or what's something you've done that isn't very common on your lease that has protected you?
I've got 2 things. Like, our places will take dogs, and I love dogs. I'm great with dogs. You can have big dogs, pit bulls. I don't care. But my favorite screening tool for dogs is I just tell the people I am a dog lover. My daughter owns a dog walking business. We are all about taking care of the animals. And so if you've got a dog and you want to move in, your dog has to be registered with the City of Calgary. They have to be licensed. You have to show me a vet bill from the last year saying that the dog has been seen and well taken care of.
Love that tip. That's awesome.
And so that'll screen a lot of people, and their vaccinations have to be up to date. And so I tell them that I'm doing this for the love of the dog, but honestly, I'm checking to see how responsible they are taking care of their dog. Because if they're good with their dog, they're going to be good with my house.
Wow. I just learned something. I didn't even think of that. That's brilliant. So basically say, hey, great, you've gone through, we signed the lease, you've got your dog. I just need to see, your last vet bill for a checkup or the record of shots.
I actually tell them when I use your little card that you had, you gave a Facebook thing talking about how you screen your tenants, and I use your thing, and then I tell them about us and our protocols, because we have another one that I will not hand over the keys until they bring me the certificate of insurance that they have tenant insurance and that they are covered in case there's any reason that they can't live in the home, that their accommodation outside of the home is covered under that.
Perfect.
I make them. So those are some of my big screening things.
And we like to meet the dogs too.
Yeah. I have to meet the dogs.
So if you're going to come to see the house, bring your dog.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We'd love to meet them.
If I have to go in the house and they're not home, the dog's already met me.
Yeah, so they know you, and I don't know about you guys, but I've never met a dog that's lied to me. So you generally get a pretty good first impression seeing the dog in person. Yeah, I love that. Trish, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm taking your tips. I'm incorporating them into my questions now because I've never thought about checking vet bills and shots. But it's completely true. If someone truly cares and looks after the dog and has them well mannered, they'd probably take them to the vet to look after their health as well.
Yeah.
So. Wow, awesome tips. Chris, you're quiet up there. I want to bring you back in the conversation. What do you think?
That's okay, you guys just keep on going. You're all chatty Cathy's there tonight, so I'm listening and taking notes here. So
okay.
Cool. We should get to some of the questions that are coming up as we're
do you want to throw one in there? Trish, you got any more other tips? I mean, those are awesome. Anything else you kind of thinking off? Like you said, you had a strong lease. Just anything else that's in particular to you that you like to do on your screening that you think is worth sharing?
I also, when somebody moves out from my house, I ask them if they will give me a testimonial that I can use and to current tenants. And I'll tell them, there's a lot of bad landlords out there. There's a ton of bad landlords out there. And if you want a recommendation from one of our previous tenants, then I'll give you the number or whatever. Like I make sure that they know that this is a two-way street.
Yes.
I will respect you, you will respect me.
Yeah.
And
we're awesome landlords.
Yeah. I love it. Well, like you take the time to build a good property by putting soundproofing in. By having soundproofing in, you get less complaints. It's easier to manage, better quality of life for your tenants. It's really a win-win situation all the way around.
Nice places for nice people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've got a bit of a tip I'm going to add on what you do, Trish. I do the same thing as well. I get a feedback and a testimonial, but I get it on my Google review. So I actually went and created here's kind of a tech pro tip, whatever you want to call it. I've got a Google review going right now. If you search Living Space Rentals Calgary. I'll come up on the right-hand side, and I have, I don't know, a half dozen, maybe a bit more 5-star reviews. So it's another way. And I share that link in my ad saying, hey guys, I'm not your usual landlord. I, take care and run good properties. But don't take my word for it. Here's my previous tenants. And yeah, I love it. Similar idea.
Great idea.
Yeah,
I'll
great.
have to talk to you about that because I don't know how to do that.
I'll bring you and Trish in. I'll take it. It'll be very quick. Yeah, absolutely. It's but exact same thing, right? Get third party testimonial. Like here's what we do, right? Mutual respect. Yeah,
because they're our customers, and we are there to serve our customers.
Yeah,
and they're there to pay my mortgage down.
Exactly. Yeah, win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, we got some questions come in. Chris, you've been on top of the ones on the chat. Do you want to throw one up for us, and let's see what we can do with it?
Well, you got the controller, my friend. I'm just watching on the Facebook page because not the names don't always come up.
Okay.
So the first question here is, well, we pass it. Let's go to Lisa Madsen asked us. Trish was going to talk about screening tenants and the time she let something slip. What was that about?
Well, my most recent one is if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. We had a guy that we just recently put in. He's not renewing his lease with us. And he was quite surly and bitter and angry, kind of, because he was going through a divorce and his dad was going to be moving in with him, and he was just going through a really, really hard time. And so I gave him the benefit of the doubt that he was going through a really hard time, but really he's just a very bitter, angry person. And I shouldn't have put him in. And our biggest mistake ever was the first house we bought had a tenant in it. The second house we bought, we thought that we had to get somebody in right away to pay the mortgage. And so we rushed it, and we let some people go move in. And I forgot, because it was my first time, I forgot to Google them. I forgot to creep them on Facebook and Instagram and all of that stuff that you need to do. And turns out that, he had been arrested for kidnapping in Prince George, and found out near the end of the time that they were with us. Thank goodness they broke their lease, and we never charged them anything. Just go.
Yeah, it's not even worth, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, here, take all your money, go.
Oh man.
But he had given me an alias. It wasn't his name that he went by.
So how did you find out the latter then, that it was his real name and he had to charge?
Creeping him on Facebook, but I could never find him with the name that he gave me.
Yeah.
And so then I went back to her page because things were happening. They never paid on time. They were terrible. And he was a big guy with a short temper and an angry dog that wasn't neutered. Oh yeah, the dogs have to be neutered or spayed. The dog wasn't neutered. The dog was aggressive. They never had tenant insurance because I didn't ask for it. Like, most of my bad tenant stories come from this family. Yeah, almost all of them come from this family.
Lesson learned, all right. So
it was really good. It was really good because they left the place in beautiful condition.
Oh, good.
And
just basically midnight moved and bailed on you, and you're like, thank you for leaving and doing me a favor.
No, they told us they were moving, and we at this time we just had a lease from the CRRA.
Oh yeah.
And which is a good lease, but it's not good enough. And so, yeah. Anyways, it was well, if you're going to break the lease, you have to do this and this. But we told them that if you will leave the place in beautiful condition so that we can show it your last month being there, we'll let you out. And we had new tenants come in and take over, so it was good.
Good for you. That's a good way to wrap up kind of a stressful situation. Having them move out, giving you the access that you need to get the place viewed, and they left it in good condition. That's yeah.
Just one more little tip is I use a garage lease too that's separate. This is all from these people. A garage lease that is separate.
Yep.
And the garage lease states that if they leave anything behind at the end of the lease term, it's mine. If it was under the residential thing, then if they
RTA.
left anything of value, I'd have to store it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to try to riff on the rules here, and Chris maybe correct me. RTA, if there's valuables left on the premise, if it's less than $2,000, you can dispose of them as you want. If it's over $2,000, then you have to store it for 30 days, and they have to have an opportunity to come back and collect it. It's just basically a lot more steps and rules to deal with. But if you do a garage lease, it's not under the umbrella of the RTA. It's under, I think there's a storage act. Don't quote me on the exact name of it. Anyways, completely different legislation, a lot more relaxed, and it's definitely more in your favor, and you can handle disposing of abandoned goods in a lot easier manner. So I've got a question here. I'm going to throw up on the page. I don't know this answer. I'm not sure. I've never seen this one before, but someone's asking a question here. How long do you have to legally retain the expired lease papers once tenants move out? 5 years? Oh. Is that what RTA says, or is that like a CRA thing, or?
That's the RTA. Yeah. And also, did you know that you have to keep all leases in a locked cabinet? Now, I keep it in a locked cabinet here, a locked file cabinet, but it has to be locked according to the RTA. It doesn't matter if you leave the key in there, but the cabinet has to be locked.
Devil in the details. I have all mine. I recently, I'm looking at my leases right now. They're not locked. They're in a floating cabinet right now. But I do have. I switched to digital in the last 2 renewals now on almost all my properties. So everything is all online, which is all encrypted and whatnot. So that's how I store that. Unless there's specific rules for the online storage, I'm gonna have to look at that now, because now you got me thinking. But yeah, you are right. Yeah, it's gonna be under a lock and key. So good tip.
And see, I took a course when we first became landlords. I took a course after we let these people in with the CRRA. That's the Calgary Residential Real Estate Association.
Yep.
And it was a 2-day course, and they basically went through the entire Landlord Tenant Act and gave you all kinds of practical ideas. And one of their ideas was this guy rented out places in Forest Lawn, but he would go every 2 months to check the house to make sure that there was no grow up, because apparently a crop comes off in 3 months. So if you go every 2 months and do a little walkthrough, you can catch a lot of the grow ups.
Oh,
I changed the furnace filters.
Yeah.
You just have to change those furnace filters.
You know what? I care about your breathing space here. It's Calgary. It's a very dusty place, but I just want to pop in and just put a new furnace filter in for you. That gets me into the basement suite anyways, and then I can, upstairs, usually pretty.
Yeah, and I always, if I can, leave some small unfinished maintenance. It's not a big problem. I want to come back and check on this on you, check that, check the building envelope as well. I mean, that's another big thing. Yeah, well, let's get into the list of some questions. Those are great tips, Trish. I love that. I'm already making a lot of mental notes here. So we'll do this one here. We've got, let's take a look here. So I think I've seen this quite a bit in the page. So we have a legal suite with 2 roommates living in it currently. One has, in quotes, fallen in love and moved in with her boyfriend about 2 months ago. She continues to pay her rent for the past couple of months, so it was no issue. Yesterday, one of the ladies texted me that the other has moved most of her belongings out and doesn't plan to pay her half of the rent for August 1st. what recourse do we have? One, will we be able to pay? Hold on. Anyways, let's leave it at that. She's just kind of commenting further. So we've got 2 people on the lease. It sounds like here's 2 females. One's met a boyfriend, has now moved out with her boyfriend. She's paid rent for the first couple of months. Now it's coming up to August, and she's saying she's not going to pay anymore, but she's still in the lease. You kind of already tackled this question, Trish, but I'm going to throw it back at you. Who's responsible for this?
Well, they both are. They're both responsible for the lease. The only real thing that I would do about that would be the person that is staying there. If they can't cover the entire lease, then the 2 of them need to break the lease. And in my lease, it says if you break the lease, it's $500. Because our places are so far away from where we live, it does cost that for us to get a new tenant in. So they have to pay the $500 to break the lease, but they are also on the hook until the place has rented. So they can both move out, but they both still pay the rent until the place is rented. And then I promise them that I will move heaven and earth to try to get the right person in there so that they can get out and, so they can get out of the home. But yeah, they're both responsible for it. There's no getting around that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think you did 2 things. You play in their side and say, like, listen, you're committed to this contract, but I understand life happens. I'm going to help you. I'll do my best to get this property rented out. But I mean, you got to work with me. Or you got to give me. Maybe you can negotiate shorter notice so you can bring in more viewings quickly, because of course, typically you require 24-hour written notice. And like you said too, they're both still at liable. They're both on a contract. They're still both responsible for the rent. The other thing is, you mentioned a really good point, is that tenant that's now by themselves, they almost have to requalify, because initially while you let both those people in, it was double income and the rent to income ratio made a lot of sense. Well, now half of that's disappeared. It's a completely different financial picture, and they have to be reevaluated accordingly. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
And the RTA says that if they can get somebody to sublet in, and that's part of the act, and we can't stop that. But if they want to get somebody else to move in or advertise to have somebody move into that room, they can do that. But that person still has to pass my scrutiny. Yes.
Perfect. And I'm on the same page. Like, I'm all for, hey, get a roommate, cut your costs in half. Like, power to you. It's a great idea. At the end of the day, I still have final say. They need to go do my credit check. They need to do my screen process as well. Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Okay, awesome. We'll fly through. They got another question here. I think you kind of already answered this as well. One came up today is, how's RentFaster? I've been looking around. Besides Facebook and Kijiji, how does RentFaster compare? Trish, do you want to take a take on that as well?
Yeah, it depends on where you live. I was in a mastermind group with, it was people from Red Deer and Calgary, and we would meet once a month, and it would either be here or there. And it's absolutely about where you live. When you're in Red Deer, it's Kijiji all the way, because Red Deer is a smaller place, and it was the only thing that worked there at the time. This was a couple of years ago, though. But Calgary is so big, and people want to live in a particular area of Calgary. So my daughter, for instance, was looking for a place down at this neck of the woods. And I said, she was like, where else can I look? And I said, well, you can go through the ads on Kijiji, but there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of them. And it's going to be really hard to narrow it down.
Yeah.
So, in Calgary, the best tenants come from RentFaster.
I fully agree. I think the value is, you click on a map, you put in the filter, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, how many baths, and you're looking in your community, you're down in the Beltline, if you're downtown, whatever your interest is. It's just, there's the properties available for your price range. It's simple. Yeah. Kijiji is like, you throw an ad on there, 2 hours later it's on page 5, and it's just challenging, to be honest. It's not easy to use. Yeah, the only thing to add on what you said there, Trish, exactly. I find RentFaster is the best here in Calgary. Is Google your local area. Google 2-bedroom rentals, Sylvan Lake, Fort Mac, Calgary. Google houses for rent. Whatever the key term for the product you want in the location, you'll see the results on the page. Don't do the ads at the top because that's paid for. But the actual results you get are the most popular places people are searching, and that's your go-to marketing resources.
But actually, in the smaller areas, I just know this from the mastermind group I was in. One of the ladies lived in Sylvan Lake, and she said that if you advertise places more than a certain number of times, Kijiji will come at you and make you pay for the ad. So sometimes the paid ads for a rental property would be a really good thing because you're getting an experienced landlord.
I like that. Yeah.
I gotta just jump in here. This Kijiji thing where you said their chart, do you want to just replay that to me again, what you just said there about Kijiji?
I don't know how they did it, but they came back on her and charged her because she had so many ads.
Okay, that's the problem there. I think Kijiji now, if I remember right, the last time I did it, you're allowed 3 ads, and if you start going over that, then they look at charging you now.
Okay.
I think it's 3. It could be 2, but somebody wants to throw an answer up in the comment section here. Please do, and just get us back on track. But where I find here in these smaller communities is Ponoka is here, just that's sort of that central rural Alberta. What I have found most successful, I tried. What do you call it?
RentFaster.
RentFaster. I put it on there. Never got one reply from that. But what a lot of places have, if you go and search, if people are going to a community, they'll type in rent Ponoka, rent Rimbey, rent Wetaskiwin, and you'll see what comes up. And then you can go on there and see what's locally available. And that's where I've had all my success has been with Kijiji and with Facebook, and the smaller communities too. A lot of word of mouth sometimes works out, but Facebook has been my biggest one where I've had the most success. I will say though that back earlier when we were talking about whether people read ads or not, the only thing downside about Facebook is somebody hits the button that says interested. Okay, well, send me a message if you're interested. I won't even reply to those.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones who say after you know what, I try to write an ad that answers every single question. How much is the damage deposit? How much is rent? Is utilities included? What are, and I try to cover it. And it's a test for me to see if I can get it out there, not to get asked a whole bunch of questions. It's my filter. And I'll be God if somebody doesn't write you. So how much is the damage deposit?
Well,
okay, what
they
part
don't read.
Yeah.
They don't read. They see a picture and whatnot.
So you know what? I don't even reply. When people ask me a question, it's already written down and that's already covered and it's clear. I don't reply unless they do a second inquiry with me saying, I sent you a message, did you not get it? And then I'll address the issue that it's covered in the ad. But that speaks to me, and part of my filtering of my people as to whether they actually give a damn. And their attention to detail. They even going to vacuum. There's a question I ask: do you own a vacuum? If they don't own a vacuum, I don't rent to them.
There you go. Good point.
I never thought of that.
No.
What's that?
I never thought of that.
Well, you know what? I had one, and I learned the hard way, like we've all learned. And after I had my cleaners in to clean out, and they had their empty or vacuum out twice, from that day forward, it was, do you own a vacuum? Yeah. Well, sure. Well, what kind is it? And they better know, because if they can't answer the question, I will not rent to them unless they own a vacuum, because the place needs to be vacuumed.
What kind of vacuum do we have?
That's a good one to add. That's a good one, Chich.
Yeah, I like that.
In my case, it's like, do you own a lawnmower?
Yeah.
No, we bought lawnmowers for all the places. Yeah.
Yeah, we gave up.
How does that work? So I struggled with this because I did give a lawnmower out, and then it was like, oh, who pays for the maintenance? I'm like, I've already given you a $200. This was a gas lawnmower. So the next time I bought a push lawnmower, like the little spinning mechanical blades. It's like,
they don't work.
Like this is your, well, this, yeah, kind of, yeah. Once it gets overgrown, they don't, they get kind of, it doesn't work very well. But I just say it now. I just say if you're renting a house with a yard, you are renting a house with the yard. You know what you're getting into. You are responsible for that yard. You are required to look after it. So if you choose to rent a house, then you should have the equipment along to maintain it.
You know what? I give them the tools because I've given up having it look like crap, but I do have the expectation, and we're down there and often enough. I do drive-bys pretty regularly, and it's like, hey, you know, saw the lawn the other day. Here it's you know, gonna rain on Sunday. Better get it done by then. Hint, hint, right?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. One note on those, like, one-word replies. Hi, is it available? I'm interested. And they don't follow any of your questions. Those same questions you're talking about, Trish, that are laid out in that kind of cheat sheet. I have I save it on my phone as like a note. I copy and paste it. I drop into the text and fire it right back. And it does two things. One, I've taken the time to respond to them by already having a scripted reply, and it basically gets rid of the tire kickers because they're not going to sit through and answer 10 questions via text or email. But if they are interested, then they actually go through and fill it out. But it also it shows that you're organized, and I love taking a one-word text, and within a minute or 2 minutes, I drop like a text that would typically take 10 to 15 minutes to write. I answer back in like 3 seconds, and I've gone like, oh, that's a lot of questions really quickly, and they go and fill it out. So I do that because then it gets rid of the tire kickers. But two, if you actually had gotten someone that's just lazy, you might still get a quality tenant out of it. Maybe not. I mean, like you said, Chris, it does foreshadow someone's interest if they don't take the time to read the ad. But I don't know, giving them a second crack at the can, they might turn out to a good tenant, and you might increase some opportunity to find people. So
yeah, I found I got somebody who sent one of those responses yesterday, and I wasn't in a very good space yesterday. And so this is another tip: don't answer somebody who gives you a stupid reply when you're in a bad mood, because they're not coming back.
Yeah. I don't deal well with stupidity. Here you go. Click.
That was about it. Yeah, I'm interested in your place. Okay.
Yeah. So have you read anything? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
who are you?
like it doesn't work for sure. I mean, you wish everyone respects your time, but they generally don't. And then I mean, again, it depends on the product and what demographic you're appealing to as well. So, some seem to be better than others, but yeah, we're getting to the top of the hour. Trish and Bruce, thank you guys so much for spending your evening with us. Super informative. I've learned some stuff. I've got some. I love the pet tip. That was my bread and butter out of this. Is because I do allow pets in some as well. I do a pet lease, and I do have them show up to the property, but I never thought to actually kind of quiz the owner on how they look after the dog, and that's awesome. Like, that's just gold. So
well, and cats too have to be registered in Calgary too.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Yeah. And if they're not fixed, they're going to spray. Sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean, will. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I want to give you guys an opportunity. You've given me
MacKenzie, I just want to jump in here. One of our goals on our show, of course, are to answer people's questions, and I want to cover off a couple quick ones here. I should be able to give a short answer to it. Lori is asking at the bottom here, says, how do you ensure your tenants are still paying their tenants insurance after initial proof of insurance?
I've done my due diligence. I don't have to. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
If you're concerned about them paying, then I would say part of your follow-up. First, you've got that they've got insurance. You've got your letter from their insurance company. You know what? If you have valid concerns, then ask for a 6-month follow-up. But I always ask every year for a letter on the date they moved in, and I ask for a letter from them to provide me their insurance. I do my annual follow-ups, making sure their insurance is in place. So that would be the one way to go about it. I don't know what the other guys do, but that's my background checks there. Any other suggestions there?
You can give your tenant a letter that authorizes the insurance agent to talk to you if they've canceled their insurance.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah, we're looking at something similar. We've talked to a few insurance companies, and that's actually this is foreshadowing. We're trying to bring another savings to the group here. Is some of them have it where they get the landlord's email on account, so then if any changes are made, you're made aware of it. So it sounds like very similar to what you've done with your letter of approval, Trish. Is you basically you need the insurance company ultimately to tell you something's gone down or they've changed anything. So you need permission one way or another, whether when they sign up, it's part of the sign up process that gives the landlord the permission, or you go and get written permission that you can take to the insurance agent to follow up at a later date. But beyond that, timely check-ins is the other thing as well. Definitely on renewals, because typically these are all 1-year policies. That's a great time to make sure they're still in there. But I mean, ultimately, if you get someone with ill intent, they move in, it's really challenging unless you have, again, some of these permissions built in that you get a notification. If you don't have that, you're not going to find out. They can go and cancel their insurance within 2 weeks of them moving in, and honestly, you won't know. If they go and do that and you have that initial insurance slip, though, I mean, if they try to come at you for accommodations and they've canceled their own insurance, it looks pretty bad on them. I'm sure that's some grounds to push back, because that's your responsibility to have insurance, and it's in your lease. I think having it documented at the front saying, hey, insurance is a must-have requirement. You don't get to move in. As Trish, as you said, you don't give over keys until you get that written confirmation. So.
But after that point, I really have no control. If they cancel it, there's absolutely nothing I can do until renewal time.
Yeah. And you just got to protect yourself with your contract and your lease.
Well, there is something you can do, is that, well, in the sense that if it's a requirement for them to have insurance to live with you, live at your place, then if you find out they're canceled, then that is a substantial breach of their lease. And it's like, get insurance or get out.
Is it, though, a substantial enough breach for them to have to move out?
It's a condition. I make it a condition of them renting.
It is a condition of our lease, is it not?
Yeah, I know, but
what'd you say, Bruce?
Yeah. I think it's conditional on our lease.
Yeah, if it's conditional, it's a breach of the lease, and it's substantial. Like it's a liability issue. If they like,
it really is. It depends how you guys want to enforce. I mean, ultimately, it's your lease. But it is certainly, on a legal perspective, grounds for a breach of lease. They have to address it, or it can be an eviction for sure.
Having a little addendum, or not an addendum, a little piece of paper that says they sign to say, I authorize you, Landlord Chris, to contact my insurance company, ABC Limited, to verify my insurance is still valid during the term of our lease. Something worded similar to that, and it's just a authorization for them, and that and then I put a little note on there that you can withdraw this permission at any time in writing to your insurance company, whatever. Then it's up to them to notify the insurance that they're withdrawing your permission to ask about them. And all you want from the insurance company is, yes, it's still in place. Good.
Yeah. You don't care about the details.
Yeah, I don't care about details. Insurance companies, everybody likes to hide behind FOIP. And I'll tell you, my previous career and stuff, that whole FOIP thing drives me absolutely bananas, because people use it as a crutch instead of common sense. I'm not asking for the world. I'm not asking for their birthday or their firstborn's information, their blood type. I'm asking for nothing except the common sense stuff. And so get those little piece of paper signs. We just said it. It's 3 lines. Say,
that's a good tip. I'm going to actually go and make that piece of paper tonight now, because I didn't think of that. But that's why we have these conversations. We all learn these different little nuances of the business, and it makes the job easier.
You know what? Write it right into your lease. Now you don't have to have that separate piece of paper. And then they just initial that they authorized it. It's right on their lease, and they have a copy of it as well. Just a little paragraph number 7 or 7 point whatever.
Yeah.
Write it right in.
Cool.
15.6 if it's my lease.
yeah. I got a few details you got to go through for sure. Awesome. Chris, you got any other questions we should tackle here before we wrap her up?
No, it looks like we've got everybody else. We've got most of them covered here. Laura, what does she say here? Laura Black here, she says, I have also a few, Sweeted Sweets, okay, and yeah, we've covered that off with the conversation. So we're good. We're all caught up. So
Yeah, I noticed this week too, and to be fair for everyone out there, there was a lot of questions, and I know I didn't get to them all. Maybe we should start getting like a submission form so we can, like, if you really want your question on the show, like I'm happy to talk about. I kind of go through and say, oh, this is a good topic. I see lots of conversation around it. I want to bring those conversations on under the group that benefit the most people. But by all means, if you're out there, I mean, oh, I guess the other thing as well, tune in live and ask your question because we'll certainly address it live on the show. But yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Trish and Bruce, thank you very much. I want to give you guys a quick opportunity. Do you guys have a passion project, a business venture, a charity? What's important to you? Please, you each got a moment here. Share what's going on in your life and something that you guys care about. Who wants to go first, Bruce or Trish?
Bruce.
Bruce. Okay.
Passion project. I mean, for me, it's personal. I want to leave a legacy for my children. For Trish and I'm working towards securing my retirement in a reasonable way. I work as a contractor in engineering. There's no pensions. There's nothing. It's all up to me to make that work. So that's what's driving my business side of it. But then on the other side, like I do consulting services for people who are developing suites and want to wade through the Calgary bylaws and all that. And I always like helping people out. I'll go and do a little assessments on suitability for structure and buildings and that kind of stuff. And then if they want to do design work, and permit submission and all that. That's kind of a nice little sideline that I like to do.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I did all my own drawings for my own development and all the permit submissions and stuff. So if anybody needs a hand, they're looking to get into that kind of stuff. I love doing that kind of thing on the side, and I'm pretty reasonable. So.
What is the best way to get a hold of you, Bruce? If you
can look me up on Facebook. I have a business page. It's Bruce Fraser REIA, which is a real estate investment. What is it?
Advisor.
There you go. Yeah. I spent a lot of time doing that. But I've been through all that training with Rain and Legacy and the financial life professional stuff, and that's kind of just goes on the side. But if you want any help with that as well, I have learned a lot from those programs and the education growing up. It's really helped me get my financial house in order. Which is sort of an essential thing for us to be, taking this leap and taking this risk. Otherwise, people are wondering if they want to get into this, go for it. Make sure your numbers work. Be brutally honest and brutally conservative with your numbers. And if it works, take a shot. Go at it.
At night.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Trish, what do you got going these days? You got a passion project, a charity? What's important to you?
Well, I just finished one.
Yeah, I just finished a passion project. I always wanted to do a flip. And so it was very exciting. It closes tomorrow. It's sold in 2 days.
Yeah.
It was just
cleared final inspection today.
Oh, good for you guys.
That's my big thing. I would love to do another one, but if you look at the real estate cycles and read Don Campbell's book, it's not the time. So I'm still looking.
Keep looking. If you can buy at the right price, then you can make one work. But like you said, the economy is not it's not very friendly to that kind of strategy at the moment. So no, because what I like to do, what my model is a bungalow style condo with laundry on the main floor. So for people like Bruce and I who are going to be retiring soon, that we can just move into a place that's only one floor. If anybody knows me, I've had 4 knee replacements. Don't like stairs anymore. Get rid of the stairs. Yep.
Stairs are not good.
Yeah. So just take a place that's 20, 30 years old and flip it on its head. And
got it. Yeah.
Somebody our age can move in and have a whole new fresh look. That's my passion.
That's awesome. Congratulations. A flip is huge. I'll be honest, it scares the out of me. Like I'm struggling with getting 3 walls in the bathroom done right now. And you flipped an entire house, and that's your first. Congratulations! It's a huge milestone. So
well, we borrowed a contractor from a very well-respected Rain member that you also know. So he was kind enough to put us onto this guy, and he did a pretty good job.
He did a good job. He was good to deal with.
Yeah. He's all right.
Awesome.
And his wife did a lot of the design work and has good sense there too. So they were a good team. That's really critical. Getting that the right guy to do the work, unless you're going to do it all yourself, which I don't do that much.
We don't do that.
And again, it goes back to Bruce. You got to be there every day, right? Making sure
you really do. Yeah, you really do. You got to be on him, and that's
and this guy that we had was so good that during COVID, I couldn't go, and he did a great job.
Awesome. So, well, good.
Few issues with supply chain. It probably cost us a bit of money, but we got out and made some money on it, and so it was good thing.
Good for you guys.
Yeah, Trish did a great job.
Cool. Girl power. I did it with a friend,
she rocked.
Colette for her, so that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap up the show with that. Chris, another good show. We had some awesome guests, some great tips. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Thanks for the invitation, MacKenzie.
Thanks for being here, guys.
It was a pleasure. And thanks, Chris. For sure, appreciate it.
You bet. We'll see you guys over the next week on the page.
All right. Yeah, you bet.
Take care.
Bye-bye.